Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're the place you come to, well, plunge into those big, complex ideas and pull out the insights you really need to be genuinely well-informed.
That's right.
Today, we're tackling something huge: leadership.
Yeah.
Specifically, the immense pressures leaders face, the constant tough decisions, the need to somehow stay calm when everything's chaotic.
It's a perennial challenge, isn't it? We see leaders buckle under that pressure all the time.
Exactly. And then you see others who just seem to glide through it all with this incredible composure, almost unnerving sometimes.
Mm.
So what if the key to that isn't some trendy management technique, but something much older, like ancient wisdom, specifically Stoicism?
Indeed. And the demand for principled, effective leadership feels, well, louder than ever right now.
Yeah.
The modern world, frankly, often seems almost designed to just strip leaders of that inner peace.
Yeah, it really does.
So we're going to explore how Stoicism, often, dismissed as just dusty philosophy, or maybe misunderstood as simply bottling up emotions, actually offers this incredibly practical and powerful roadmap for anyone in a position of influence, really.
Absolutely. So our mission today, our deep dive, is into action, the Stoic approach to leadership. We're not just scratching the surface here.
No.
We're going deep.
Right.
We want to extract the core principles that, well, shaped some truly compelling historical figures. We're talking about things like profound duty, genuine humility, this unwavering service to others.
And that almost mythical ability to stay rational, stay calm, even when the world is just spinning out of control around you.
Right. And our goal, as always, is to distill these timeless insights for you, the listener, give you that shortcut to being really informed, maybe spark some of those aha moments.
And to do that, we're going straight to the source material. We'll be digging into the pragmatic advice of Seneca, the guy who actually tutored Emperor Nero. Talk about a challenge.
Yeah, Nero.
Then we'll get into the really profound personal reflections of Emperor Marcus Aurelius, his meditations. A real leader wrestling with these ideas, on the battlefield, in the palace.
Incredible source.
And we'll also pull in the sharp, unflinching insights from Epictetus, a former slave who became this hugely respected Stoic teacher.
Amazing story.
Yeah. These weren't just thinkers in ivory towers. They lived this stuff. They led through some incredibly turbulent, ethically messy times. They offer us a real living testament to Stoic leadership in action.
Okay, fantastic. Let's dive in. So first things first, let's tackle that big misconception about Stoicism right away. When people hear Stoic, lowercase s, what usually comes to mind?
Right. It's often that image of someone, well, unemotional, maybe a bit stiff upper lip, enduring hardship with a sort of quiet resignation, maybe even apathy.
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of gritting their teeth and bearing it. But that popular idea, the way the words evolved, it feels miles away from what the actual philosophy, capital S Stoicism, seems to be about, especially for leaders. Is that right?
That's such a crucial starting point. And yes, it's a profound misunderstanding we absolutely have to clear up. Stoicism is not, let me repeat, not about passive resignation. It's not about being unemotional in that modern sense.
Okay.
Quite the opposite, actually. At its core, it's a philosophy of active participation, intentional engagement with life, deliberate, virtuous action.
Active participation. That sounds very different.
It is, and look no further than Seneca for proof. His life just completely demolishes that passive, resigned image.
Seneca,
Right.
right. The advisor to Nero we mentioned, he was also a famous playwright, wasn't he? And apparently quite wealthy. He doesn't sound like someone hiding from the world.
Not even remotely. Seneca's life was a whirlwind. Highly successful playwright, his tragedies were huge hits in Rome. He was also incredibly sharp financially, amassed a massive fortune. You could almost call him like a prototypical investment banker of his day.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, navigating complex finances. Plus, he was a senator and crucially Nero's main advisor for years. This guy was right at the heart of Roman power, not detached at all.
So deeply involved.
Absolutely. The sources are clear. He wasn't stoically resigned to life. In fact, he explicitly advised paying attention to all the advantages that adorn life. He lists things like marriage, children, friendships.
So enjoying life, engaging with it.
Exactly. This active, multifaceted life shows that Stoicism is totally compatible with a rich, engaged existence. It can even enhance it. The fact that figures like him are known for so much more than just philosophy really underlines this active interpretation.
Okay, so it's not about detachment, but a very specific kind of purposeful engagement. That feels like a fundamental call to action then.
Precisely. The core Stoic counsel is really a directive, an active command. Strive to become better people, to become virtuous in the ancient sense of the word.
Strive, that's the key word.
It is. It's not passive wishing, it's daily conscious effort. It's a call to strive to practice Stoicism in our daily life. So these aren't just abstract ideas for a classroom. They're tools for, the office, the home, everywhere.
Practical application.
And critically, it demands we strive to do our social duty. Again, these aren't passive ideals. They're active pursuits requiring constant, deliberate engagement. For a leader, that means relentless self-improvement, applying principles to real challenges daily, and actively contributing to the well-being of their community, their organization, whatever it is.
That brings us right to this idea of social duty. What does that actually mean in a Stoic context, especially for someone in charge? Is it just, ticking boxes, fulfilling basic obligations, or is it deeper?
Oh, it's much deeper and much more challenging, frankly. The Stoics believed, and this is key, that we cannot be selective in doing our social duty.
Cannot be selective. What does that imply?
It implies, and this can be tough for leaders, that there will absolutely be times when you must associate with annoying, misguided, or malicious people in order to work for common interests.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't get to pick your team based on who you like or agree with if the bigger goal requires otherwise.
Exactly. You might have to negotiate with a rival you despise, or work alongside a colleague whose values seem totally off. But the project, or the company's health, or society's benefit depends on it. That's the reality of this Stoic duty. It demands a broad, sometimes difficult, pragmatic engagement for the collective good.
That sounds like walking a serious ethical tightrope. How do you maintain your own integrity, your own principles, when you're forced to engage with people whose values might be, well, compromised? Where's the line?
And that's where the Stoic distinction between your broad social duty and your personal friendships is absolutely critical. It's the safeguard.
Okay, explain that.
While your duty might force you to interact widely for the common good, Stoics say you can and absolutely should be highly selective about your personal friends, close relationships.
Right.
They specifically warn against befriending people whose values have been corrupted for fear that their values will contaminate ours. It's a defensive measure for your own character.
Makes sense. Protect your inner circle.
Precisely. Instead, seek out friends who share our proper Stoic values. And importantly, you can learn from people who are maybe doing a better job than we are of living in accordance with these values.
So build a supportive network that reinforces your principles.
Exactly. It creates that vital, moral, and intellectual support system. It lets a leader stay anchored even when navigating murky public waters. Be effective in the world without being corrupted by it.
That's a really valuable distinction, and history gives us some pretty stark examples of this kind of commitment to social duty, even when it meant extreme personal risk, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Think about Helvidius Priscus,
Yeah.
a Stoic tribune, a senator under Emperor Vespasian.
Okay.
Priscus felt Vespasian was overstepping, undermining the Senate's authority. He was warned repeatedly to back down. He knew the danger.
But he didn't?
He refused to back down.
Yeah.
He insisted on standing up to the emperor to defend his rights and indeed those of all members of the Senate. He put the institution, the rights of his peers, the constitutional balance above his own safety.
That's incredible courage.
It wasn't just politics, it was profound social duty. And it got him executed. His story is this visceral illustration of ultimate commitment to the common good, regardless of personal cost. His duty wasn't just to himself.
Wow. That really drives the point home. It also makes me think about how our different roles, leader, parent, citizen, they aren't just titles. They come with built-in duties.
Exactly. Epictetus talks about this very directly. He urges us to reflect. If you are some city's counselor, keep that in mind. Your youth, if you're young, your old age, if you're old, being a father, if you are a father.
So recognize the role and its inherent responsibilities.
Yes, he says each of these identifications, when it is reflected upon, underwrites the appropriate actions. Your role, your age, your relationships, they all carry specific duties. Stoicism sees these not as burdens, but as guides.
Guides to appropriate action.
Right. It reinforces that idea, as Ryan Holiday puts it, that everything must be done in the service of the whole, especially for a leader. It's about living up to the ethical expectations of your position for the collective benefit, always asking, given who I am right now, what's the most virtuous and helpful thing to do?
Okay, so the big takeaway for us, the listener, seems to be that Stoic leadership isn't about easy choices or personal comfort. It demands this unwavering, often tough commitment to the common good, even if it means dealing with difficult people. But at the same time, you need to be really discerning about your personal connections to protect your own moral compass. It's active, engaged, often challenging.
A radical focus on collective well-being over personal ease. That sums it up well.
And speaking of challenging paths, let's really get into the weeds now with Seneca and Nero. This relationship feels like the ultimate test case for Stoic principles meeting brutal political reality.
It really is. It's perhaps the classic example of a Stoic philosopher caught in an almost impossible ethical dilemma, a situation people have debated for, well, 2,000 years.
How did it even start? How did Seneca end up advising Nero?
Well, Seneca was recalled from exile when he was 53, specifically to tutor a 12-year-old Nero. This was largely orchestrated by Nero's mother, Agrippina.
Ah, Agrippina, very ambitious woman.
Extremely. She had grand ambitions for her son to rule, and she saw Seneca's brilliant political, rhetorical, and philosophical brain as essential for shaping Nero and securing his power. So, boom, Seneca's suddenly right at the center of the Roman imperial court. Immense power, immense influence, but also dangerously close to absolute and potentially corrupt authority.
It sounds almost like a philosopher's dream scenario: initially shape a future emperor, instill virtue at the very top, but we know it didn't quite work out that way. What were the ethical compromises? Where did it start to go wrong?
The compromises became immense
Yeah.
and deeply, deeply troubling. A really stark example is after Nero murdered his own mother, Agrippina. Matricide.
Horrifying.
Unimaginable. And Seneca was tasked with managing the fallout. He was charged specifically with winning the senator's acquiescence to this horrific act.
He had to justify it.
Essentially, yes. He had to use all his renowned verbal dexterity, his high standing, to smooth things over politically, to publicly spin, or at least legitimize, something utterly indefensible.
Wow.
Imagine the mental and moral contortions needed to craft a speech for the Senate that covers up an emperor's monstrous crime while trying to retain some shred of your own philosophical integrity. This wasn't just giving advice, it was active participation in whitewashing evil for regime stability, a direct, excruciating conflict for a Stoic preaching virtue.
It's almost impossible to square that circle. How was he seen afterwards? What was the criticism?
The criticism was absolutely damning, and as sources say, it could not be refuted. His sharpest critics used this rare, incredibly potent Greek term. They called him a tyrannodidascalos,
Tyrannodidascalos, what does that mean?
a tyrant teacher.
Oof.
Yeah, it's devastating. It implies he preached against tyranny in his writings, but then became the chief enabler, the teacher of one of history's most notorious tyrants.
That highlights the core tension perfectly.
It does. It points to that glaring, seemingly irreconcilable gap between his philosophy and his actions in Nero's court. A contradiction that, as our sources note, has shadowed Seneca for 2 millennia. It raises that timeless question: can a good person, a philosopher, serve a deeply corrupt system without becoming tainted?
A question leaders still grapple with constantly. Given that intense criticism, Seneca himself must have been wrestling with this internally. Do we have any hints of his own struggle?
We do. There's a telling moment later on. A plot forms against Nero, led by a man named Piso. Piso approaches Seneca, hoping to get his support to overthrow the emperor.
And what did Seneca do?
Seneca put him off. He claimed ill health and a desire to not be disturbed.
Convenient excuse. Or something deeper.
It feels deeper, doesn't it? It speaks volumes about his internal turmoil. Was it just fear? Or maybe a moral revulsion at getting involved in regicide, even against a tyrant? Or perhaps just a crushing sense of failure that years of guidance had produced this monster, leaving him trapped?
A tragic no-win situation.
His hesitation suggests a man deeply conflicted, caught by the consequences of his long involvement with Nero, who had clearly gone off the rails. It's a stark reminder that even principled leaders can find themselves in spots where every option feels ethically compromised.
So, the lesson from Seneca and Nero, it's incredibly complex. It seems to show that Stoic leadership isn't about staying pure by staying detached. It's about getting your hands dirty in the real world, navigating messy, ethically challenging situations.
Exactly. It shows that social duty can force incredibly difficult choices, compromises that will inevitably attract criticism, maybe rightfully so. It's a testament to the messy reality of trying to apply high ideals in an imperfect, often brutal world.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. We've talked a lot about the external actions, the duties. Now let's focus inward. How does a Stoic leader cultivate that inner calm, that resilience when facing all that external chaos and pressure? We admire leaders who stay cool, but how do they actually do it? It's not just about suppressing feelings, right?
Absolutely not. That's another one of those really damaging myths about Stoicism. It is not about emotional repression, not about becoming a robot.
Good, because that sounds unhealthy.
It is.
Mhm.
The Stoic ideal, what they called apatheia, isn't a complete lack of emotion as we think of it. It means freedom from irrational passions.
Irrational passions. Like what?
Think of the destructive emotions, the ones that cloud judgment, hijack your decisions, make you act in ways you regret. Things like intense lust, uncontrolled craving, rage, crippling dread, jealousy, envy, constant irritability, worry.
The stuff that really messes us up.
Exactly. The goal isn't to feel nothing. It's to stop these specific disruptive emotions from taking the driver's seat so you can lead with clarity, with purpose.
Okay, so weeding out the destructive emotions, does that mean there are good emotions in Stoicism? Feelings that are actually okay or even encouraged?
Precisely. They had a whole category for them, eupatheiai, which translates roughly as good feelings.
Eupathia. Interesting. What falls into that category?
These are rational, virtuous emotions, feelings that actually help us flourish and lead effectively. They fall under three main types: rational joy, rational caution, and rational well-wishing or goodwill.
Okay.
And within those, you find things like genuine cheerfulness, sociability, respectfulness, kindness, affection. These aren't irrational surges. They're considered reasoned responses aligned with virtue.
So feelings that connect us, that build things up, rather than tear them down.
Exactly. For a leader, these enable constructive dialogue, build trust, foster positive relationships. They allow for thoughtful, measured actions, not just chaotic reactions. They enhance leadership.
That's a really vital distinction. So the aim isn't to be unfeeling, but to actively cultivate these rational, virtuous emotions while freeing yourself from the destructive, irrational ones, building this strong, calm, resilient inner state.
That's the core idea, a powerful internal foundation.
Okay, that sounds great in principle. Aim for apatheia from bad passions, cultivate eupathia. But how does a leader actually do that, practically speaking? When the crisis hits, when the pressure is immense, what are the techniques? How do you achieve that calm?
Right. This gets us to a really foundational Stoic psychological insight. It underpins almost all their practical techniques. The core belief is emotions are ultimately the product of a judgment made in the mind.
A judgment.
Therefore, and this is the absolute key, the point where you can intervene, it is not things or sensations that upset us, but our judgments about them.
Ah, so the event itself isn't inherently upsetting, it's how we interpret it.
Precisely. The external event is neutral.
Yeah.
It's our appraisal, our judgment, this is terrible, this is unfair, I can't handle this, that attaches the emotion to it. And that judgment is something we can examine and potentially change.
Okay, let's unpack this more. If our judgments cause the upset, what's the step-by-step? How do you catch that judgment in the act and, reroute it before the negative emotion takes over?
Marcus Aurelius, heavily influenced by Epictetus here, practiced something we might now call cognitive distancing. It's a deliberate, conscious process.
Cognitive distancing. Tell me more.
Okay, so step one, you notice the initial sensation or the automatic impression. A crisis erupts. Someone gives you bad news. Your mind instantly throws up a thought. This is a disaster. Or I'm furious.
Right. That immediate gut reaction.
Exactly. Step two, you train yourself to pause, to step back and question whether this impression is good to go with or not.
Create some space.
Yes. Step three, you learn to view that initial knee-jerk thought as a mere hypothesis up for debate before you examine it rationally. Is it really a disaster? Is anger the only or best response here?
So you treat the first thought like a suggestion, not a fact.
Precisely. It creates that vital pause, that moment of reflection between the stimulus and your response. It allows reason, not raw impulse, to take charge.
That sounds incredibly useful for leaders, especially dealing with something like anger, which can be so destructive. How did someone like Seneca advise handling anger specifically?
Seneca wrote extensively about anger. He saw it almost like a physical illness, describing it vividly as a disease of the body characterized by swelling. The red face, clenched fists, racing heart, that internal heat.
Yeah, we all know that feeling.
But he argued forcefully that we simply don't need anger to respond to acts committed against us or our loved ones. He thought anger was never necessary for effective action.
So what's the alternative? If someone wrongs you?
Act calmly. Act from a sense of loyalty, duty, or justice, he said, not from rage. He used this wonderful analogy. When a man is wandering about our fields because he has lost his way, it is better to place him on the right path than to drive him away.
Ah, that's brilliant. Focus on guidance and correction, not just punishment or explosion.
Exactly. Address the mistake, seek accountability, find solutions, but do it with a cool head. Don't let fury dictate a destructive response you'll regret. For a leader dealing with underperformance or even betrayal, that's crucial advice.
It really is. What about direct personal attacks, though? Insults. Those are so hard not to react to viscerally, especially in public life.
For that, we have maybe the most famous Stoic anecdote ever, involving Cato the Younger, a real pillar of Stoic virtue in Roman politics.
Cato the Younger. Okay, what happened?
He's in a heated political argument. His opponent, this guy Lentulus, gets so worked up and disrespectful that he literally spits right in Cato's face.
That's outrageous.
Totally. And everyone probably expected Cato to explode, shout, hit him something. That would be the normal reaction.
Absolutely.
But Cato,
Yeah.
he just calmly wipes his face. And then with this incredible dry wit that completely deflates the situation, he says, I'll assure everyone, Lentulus, that they're wrong when they say that you're not worth spit.
Wow. That's incredible. What composure.
It's extraordinary self-control. He refused to be dragged down to Lentulus's level. He didn't let the insult dictate his reaction. Instead, he used his rational mind, his wit, to turn the provocation into a display of calm superiority. Psychological judo, right there.
That's a masterclass. Okay, so the takeaway here is huge. Stoic leaders don't just passively hope for calm, they actively engineer it.
Yes.
By dissecting those initial judgments, choosing rational responses, staying cool under fire. It's about controlling the one thing you truly can control. Your own mind, your own reaction. Turning potential meltdowns into moments of strength.
Precisely, building that inner fortress.
Okay, this all sounds like incredibly hard work, though. This constant monitoring, evaluating, correcting your internal state, it's not like flicking a switch.
Yeah.
What did the Stoics say about the effort involved? Was it supposed to be easy or comfortable?
Not at all. Comfort wasn't really the point.
Okay.
Epictetus especially had this really striking, maybe even counterintuitive analogy. He said, the philosopher's school is a doctor's office. You shouldn't leave it in pleasure, but in pain.
Wow. A doctor's office in pain. That sounds pleasant.
It does, initially. But think about it. Why do you go to the doctor? To get better, right? Treatment isn't always pleasant. It might involve discomfort, maybe even pain like getting a shot, or physical therapy after an injury.
Right. Short-term pain for long-term gain.
Exactly. Epictetus saw philosophy, especially Stoicism, the same way. It's a therapeutic process. It's designed to heal the mind, cut out unhealthy patterns, strengthen weak spots, build virtue. It can be demanding, uncomfortable work in the moment, but the goal is long-term mental health, strength, and clarity. It's deep internal work, not a feel-good seminar.
So real growth, real resilience comes from facing the internal struggles, not avoiding them, embracing the discomfort of self-improvement.
Absolutely. And this ties directly into Epictetus's core message. It was called his ubiquitous message. He urged people to look to their volition and judgments as the only criterion of living well or badly.
Volition and judgments, back to what's in our control.
Always. His whole focus was on intense self-scrutiny and discipline to activate those inner resources we all have. He said the first topic of philosophy, the starting point, is managing your desires and aversions.
Desires and aversions, wanting the right things, not wanting the wrong things.
Essentially, yes. Making sure you don't fail to get what you rightly desire and don't encounter what you rightly want to avoid. Which means aligning your desires with what's truly good, rational, and within your control, and learning to be indifferent to or even welcome what is not. It's a continuous, deeply personal process of refining your values and exercising discipline.
And for a leader, that self-scrutiny seems paramount, constantly questioning motives, biases, automatic reactions.
And then deliberately shaping them towards virtue and effectiveness. It's a lifelong commitment to inner work, recognizing that the toughest battles are often internal.
Okay. So the powerful lesson here is developing that emotional resilience, that inner calm. It's not a quick fix. It's not supposed to be easy or pleasant all the time.
Right.
It's a continuous, sometimes tough process of self-correction. Like going to the doctor's office might be uncomfortable, might even hurt in the short term, but it's all aimed at profound long-term mental health, strength, and clarity, not instant gratification. It demands real, sustained effort.
A commitment to healing and strengthening your inner world.
That's
Exactly.
All right, let's pivot slightly again. In leadership, we're constantly bombarded with external measures of success: power, money, status, public opinion, legacy. How does Stoicism guide leaders to find, well, a more authentic purpose? Something beyond those often fleeting external markers. It feels like a total rethink of what success even means.
It absolutely is. And this is where Stoicism offers a truly radical, almost revolutionary shift in perspective.
Yeah.
The absolute core distinction, Epictetus nailed this, is between what is up to us and what is not up to us.
Right, the famous dichotomy of control.
Exactly. What's up to us? Our judgments, our choices, our actions, basically our character, our moral will.
Okay, our inner world.
Yes. And what is not up to us? Pretty much everything else, external things, wealth, reputation, health, how others see us, even political outcomes.
So almost everything we usually chase after.
Pretty much, for the Stoics, only what's internal, our virtue, our choices, is truly good or bad in terms of our moral worth and ultimate happiness. Everything external. It's morally indifferent.
Indifferent, even health or wealth.
Morally indifferent, yes.
Mm.
They might be preferred. It's generally better to be healthy than sick, wealthy than poor. But they aren't sources of genuine good or evil in themselves. They don't define your worth as a person. Only your character does.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting. Because that distinction doesn't just shift the goalposts for a leader's definition of success. It basically tears up the whole playing field and replants it inside their own mind.
It does.
Yeah.
Profoundly. Seneca talked a lot about self-sufficiency, autarkia. He argued very clearly. The way someone becomes free or becomes self-sufficient is by rising above fortune. Fortune meaning all those external circumstances.
Rising above fortune.
Yeah. And he warned very starkly, the more we grant importance to external things outside our control, the less free we will become.
Mm.
Think about that. If you tie your happiness to things you don't control, you're basically handing over your well-being to chance.
That's a powerful thought.
And he pointed out, if those external things, money, fame, power, could really satisfy us deeply and permanently, they probably would have done so already for those who have them.
Good point. They often seem to want more.
Exactly. Seneca asks, rhetorically, how pleasant it is to ask for nothing, how wonderful it is to be satisfied without depending on fortune. For a leader, this means true success, true freedom, isn't measured by the size of their company, their approval ratings, or their historical legacy. It's measured by the integrity of their character, the soundness of their judgment, their commitment to virtue, regardless of the outcome.
So becoming psychologically independent from everything outside your direct control.
That's the essence of Stoic freedom and self-sufficiency.
Okay, the powerful takeaway for the listener here. Real freedom, lasting satisfaction for any leader, it's cultivated entirely internally. It comes from deliberately downplaying the importance of external fortune and focusing intensely on your own virtuous choices, finding purpose and contentment within no matter what the world throws at you.
Internal resilience, internal validation.
But what about fame, legacy? So many leaders, so many ambitious people generally are driven by that desire to be remembered, admired, maybe even revered. What's the Stoic take on fame and ego?
This is another area where Stoicism offers this really potent counter-narrative to our modern culture. Marcus Aurelius, writing his Meditations, remember, these were his private notes, not for publication, gives this incredible insights into how he, the Emperor of Rome, tried to keep his own ego in check.
The most powerful man on earth wrestling with ego.
Exactly. He wrote things like, fame was fleeting and empty. He called applause and cheering just the clacking of tongues and the smacking of hands.
Wow. Dismissive.
Very. He constantly reflected on how short-lived renown is. Everything fades so quickly, he wrote, turns into legend, and soon oblivion covers it.
Oblivion covers it. Sobering.
And to really hammer it home, he famously quipped that even Alexander the Great and his mule driver both died, and both ended up buried in the same cold ground.
Levels the playing field dramatically.
It does.
Oh.
For Marcus, all that external fame, all the glory, it just didn't hold a candle to character. It was a superficial distraction from the real work of living well.
That is such a powerful countercultural message, especially today in our, celebrity-obsessed personal branding world. It really cuts through all that noise.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
And Marcus wasn't alone in this. Think about Musonius Rufus. He was a Stoic teacher, much more low-key than Seneca or Cicero.
Okay.
He actively did not seek out fame or power. He genuinely believed that things like praise and applause were wastes of time for both the audience and the philosopher.
A waste of time? Why?
He had this great observation. When an audience goes wild, shouting, clapping enthusiastically for a speaker, It often means both the speaker and his audience are wasting their time.
Yeah.
He thought it signaled they weren't hearing real philosophy, just maybe a flute player performing.
Ouch. Performance over substance.
Exactly. His focus was entirely on the truth, the substance, the practical value of the message, not the applause. He saw chasing fame as a distraction, draining energy better spent on self-improvement and actual service.
So it's deeply about the purpose behind the action, the intrinsic value, not the external recognition or building a brand around yourself. But how do you actually do that? How do you cultivate that kind of humble ambition when the world often demands self-promotion?
This leads us beautifully to Epictetus and his idea of stealth stoicism.
Stealth stoicism. I like the sound of that.
Right. He advised, quite directly, anyone wishing to become a Stoic should do so unobtrusively.
Keep a low philosophical profile, he suggested.
Why? To avoid criticism. Partly to avoid mockery for those who don't understand. But more importantly, he said, be tolerant of being overlooked. He pointed to Socrates as the model.
Socrates. But he's hugely famous now.
Now, yes. But in his own time, Epictetus notes, Socrates kept such a low outward profile that people often didn't realize he was a philosopher. They'd even ask him to introduce them to one.
That's amazing.
It is. And it's not about false modesty or lacking confidence. It's about shifting your focus entirely inward, cultivating virtue, acting rightly according to your internal standards, not for external validation. The purpose, the satisfaction, the real greatness is in doing the good work, being good, not in being seen as good or getting credit for it.
Ambition driven by principle, not by public relations. That's a profound challenge to how we often think about leadership, where visibility is often equated with impact. So the takeaway for the listener: Stoic leaders find their real purpose in virtuous action itself. They understand fame is fleeting, applause is noise. True greatness is built on character, on humble, principled conduct, often done quietly, without seeking the spotlight, simply because it's the right thing to do.
Built from the inside out.
Okay, we've covered so much ground: active duty, emotional mastery, humble ambition. Let's try to bring these threads together. Why is having a coherent philosophy of life, like Stoicism, so fundamentally critical for a leader, for anyone trying to live a meaningful life, really? What's ultimately at stake?
The Stoics were incredibly clear about this. It's maybe their most fundamental pitch for why philosophy matters at all. They argued the most important reason for adopting a philosophy of life is that if we lack one, there is a danger that we will mislive.
Mislive? That sounds serious. What does that mean?
It means, they warned, that we might spend our life pursuing goals that aren't worth attaining, or maybe we pursue worthwhile goals, but in a foolish manner, and will therefore fail to attain them.
So wasting your life chasing the wrong things or chasing the right things badly?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Without a clear philosophical framework, a leader risks pouring all their energy, their talent, their influence into things that are ultimately superficial, making decisions that don't align with their deepest values or serve the greater good. It's about avoiding that awful realization at the end of your life. I climbed the whole ladder, but it was leaning against the wrong wall.
Wow. Yeah. So a philosophy isn't just a guide. It's more like an essential personal operating system, especially when you're responsible for others.
That's a perfect way to put it, a personal OS.
Yeah.
And it connects directly back to that constant, active, striving to become better people, to become virtuous. It's not a one-off decision. It's the daily practice that defines your direction and your impact.
The framework for everything else.
Right. A coherent philosophy provides that framework for consistent, meaningful action. It ensures your decisions, your interactions, how you face challenges. It all aligns with a deeply considered, stable set of values. It gives a leader clarity, direction, a moral compass that doesn't just spin wildly with every change in external pressure or personal whim. It's the bedrock.
Okay, so the crucial takeaway here: a well-thought-out philosophy of life acts as that indispensable moral compass, that operating system. It prevents us from getting lost, chasing hollow victories or unfulfilling goals. It guides us toward a more meaningful, impactful, and genuinely virtuous life, keeping our actions aligned with our deepest principles.
It prevents us from misliving.
Now, beyond just individual discipline, that internal work, how do Stoic leaders engage with their environment, with other people? Leadership is fundamentally relational, right? It's not just solitary reflection.
Oh, absolutely. It's deeply relational. And Stoics place huge emphasis on choosing those relationships wisely, not just for comfort, but for your own moral and intellectual growth.
We touched on this with friendships versus social duty.
Exactly. They explicitly say, avoid befriending people whose values have been corrupted, for fear that their values will contaminate ours. That's not being judgmental in a negative way. It's a pragmatic understanding of social influence. We absorb the values of those we spend time with.
Makes sense. You are the company you keep.
Right. So instead, actively seek, as friends, people who share our proper Stoic values, and crucially, seek out people who are doing a better job than we are of living in accordance with these values.
So surround yourself with people who inspire you and pull you up.
Yes. The goal isn't just hanging out. It's mutual learning, shared inspiration, continuous improvement. A virtuous circle where everyone helps elevate each other. It's about actively curating your influences to become your best self.
So constantly learning from the best influences, choosing mentors and peers who challenge and elevate your character.
Precisely. And Epictetus connects this directly to self-improvement. He says, yes, one's primary function is to improve oneself, but, and this is key, this should not be at the expense of neglecting one's social relationships.
So it's not purely selfish navel-gazing.
Not at all. For Epictetus, there's actually no conflict between genuine self-interest and altruism. He talks about a single attitude that treats concern for others as integral to concern for oneself.
Concern for others is part of concern for self. How does that work?
From a Stoic view, as you become more virtuous, more rational, your understanding of yourself expands. You recognize you're part of a larger whole family, community, humanity. So acting virtuously, which includes fulfilling your social duties and caring for others, is acting in your own highest, most rational self-interest. Your flourishing is tied to the flourishing of the whole.
That's a really sophisticated idea because often our society, maybe even other philosophies, pit self-interest against benevolence, like they're opposites.
They often are seen that way. Adam Smith, for example, famously observed how a mixture of a selfish motive seems often to sully the beauty of actions that should be purely benevolent. He saw that tension.
Right. If you benefit from helping someone, maybe it wasn't truly altruistic.
But the Stoics would argue that for a truly virtuous person, someone who has really done the philosophical work, properly understood, happiness and morality can never conflict. They merge. Acting virtuously is acting in your own best interests and for the good of others, because your rational self includes your social nature. There's no conflict, only synergy.
Okay. So powerful takeaway. Stoic leaders know their own growth is deeply linked to the company they keep and their commitment to mutually beneficial relationships. Self-improvement isn't selfish. It's a form of service. And serving others is essential for self-improvement. It's a holistic, interconnected view of personal and collective well-being.
Integrated, not separate.
Okay, finally, let's bring it all home. How do these Stoic principles truly equip a leader to face adversity? Because challenges, setbacks, crises, they're not exceptions in leadership, they're the norm. And how we respond defines us.
Right, and this brings us to arguably the most transformative, most empowering Stoic concept, often summarized as, the obstacle is the way.
The obstacle is the way. Powerful phrase. What's the core idea?
The core idea is profound. That which blocks our path actually presents a new path with a new part of us. It's not about just gritting your teeth and enduring the obstacle or accepting defeat. It's about actively reframing the challenge, no matter how difficult, as a direct opportunity.
An opportunity for what?
For growth, for learning, for putting your virtues into practice. The obstacle isn't just something in your way, it's the very material you use to forge your character, to develop resilience, to become stronger.
So instead of seeing it as a roadblock, you see it as training equipment.
Yeah.
A chance to apply the philosophy.
Exactly. It becomes a guidepost, a crucible. Ryan Holiday gives some great modern examples drawn from this principle. He says, if someone you love hurts you, there is a chance to practice forgiveness.
The pain becomes an arena for virtue.
Precisely. If your business fails, now you can practice acceptance. The setback isn't just loss. It's a chance to exercise resilience, detachment from externals, maybe find a new direction.
Okay.
Even if there's nothing else you can do for yourself, at least you can try to help others. Even in moments of seeming helplessness, there's an opportunity for service, for turning outward. Adversity becomes fertile ground for developing character, strategic thinking, virtue in action.
That's a truly profound mental shift. Struggle itself becomes a tool for progress, not just something to survive.
Exactly. And it's all part of building that metaphorical inner citadel of strength we talked about. The Stoics were clear. No one is born a gladiator. No one is born with an inner citadel.
It has to be built.
It must be built through practice, through facing resistance. Think of a stone archway. It holds weight. It stands strong only with tension between the stones. Remove the tension, it collapses.
Great analogy.
Obstacles and adversity, they argue, are no different. They are the forces that test you, strengthen you, bind your resolve together. They force you to apply your principles, to dig deep, to become more resilient, more virtuous. Every challenge is basically Stoic practice in action. It's through the struggle that the leader is truly forged.
Okay, so the powerful final takeaway for everyone listening today. Stoic leaders have this incredible ability to transform challenges, setbacks, adversity into fuel, into opportunities for growth, for applying their wisdom. By consciously reframing obstacles, they continuously strengthen their inner character, sharpen their resolve, build that unshakable inner citadel. They forge resilience right in the fires of difficulty.
Turning adversity into advantage, that's the essence.
Wow. What an incredibly deep and practical journey we've been on today, exploring action, the Stoic approach to leadership. It's clear Stoicism is anything but passive.
Far from it. It demands active, virtuous duty, that often difficult commitment to the common good. It even acknowledges leaders might have to navigate ethically messy situations, like Seneca did.
And we really dug into that inner citadel, mastering emotions not by suppression, but by understanding our judgments, using tools like cognitive distancing, cultivating that internal calm, that rational response, like Cato facing down that insult.
Right. And then there's humble ambition, redefining success away from fleeting externals like fame or wealth towards inner self-sufficiency and character. Marcus Aurelius wrestling with fame, Epictetus suggesting stealth stoicism, focusing on the virtue itself.
It all comes back to having that coherent philosophy, that personal operating system to avoid misliving, guiding us through wise relationships, seeing self-improvement and service as intertwined.
And finally, that incredibly powerful idea, the obstacle is the way. Seeing challenges not as roadblocks, but as the very path to strengthening our resolve and character.
These really aren't just dusty old ideas, are they? They feel incredibly relevant. Practical, actionable tools for your life, your leadership right now.
Absolutely. Adopting this mindset, as Epictetus believed, genuinely can lead towards a more tranquil and happy life, free from so much frustration and disappointment, enabling you to act with clarity, purpose, and real inner freedom, whatever life throws at you.
So as you go about your day, reflect on all those things not up to us that tend to cause stress or pull you off course, and maybe ask yourself this question.
Considering those external expectations, those attachments in your leadership role, or just in your personal life, what single one are you prepared to practice letting go of, starting today, to deepen your own inner freedom, to strengthen your own inner citadel?
Something to really chew on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this exploration of the active, principled, and resilient Stoic way offers you valuable perspectives for your own journey.
Until next time.